Welcome to the world of science fiction Neon's Alien. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss a new story from Neon's Alien universe. The rain was falling hard outside the small space motel. The night was cold and the neon lights from the Cosmic Rest Inn flickered in the darkness. Room 42 was quiet, just one lonely human inside. His name was John Miller, a cargo pilot who had lost his job 3 months ago. Now he was just drifting from planet to planet, looking for a reason to keep going. He had stopped at this backwater moon to rest, recharge, and eat a warm meal. John pressed the room service button on the panel beside the bed. "One breakfast plate, eggs and synth bacon," he said. "Room 42. The voice on the speaker replied with a robotic tone. "Order received. Please wait by the door." John sighed and sat down. His back ached. His muscles were sore, and his credits were almost gone. But that wasn't the strangest thing that happened that night. 5 minutes later, there was a knock. He stood up, expecting a droid or a tired worker holding a food tray. Instead, he froze the moment he opened the door. There stood a girl, but not a normal one. She was alien, around 5 feet tall, with silver blue skin that shimmered like moonlight. Her eyes were bright and glowing violet. She was young, maybe in her 20s if he guessed right. She was beautiful, like something out of a dream or a trap. She wore no armor, no coat, no shoes. Only a short silky dress and a silver collar around her neck that blinked with soft red lights. Her voice was soft and shaking. "Hi, I'm your breakfast." John blinked. "Wait, what? I didn't order you." She looked down, embarrassed. "I was told to come here. Room 42, you ordered comfort service." John stepped back in confusion. No, I didn't." A second of silence, then thunder rolled outside. "Please," she whispered, "let me come in. If they see I wasn't accepted, they'll send me back." Something about her tone, so fragile, so desperate, broke something inside John. He nodded and stepped aside. She walked in slowly, wet feet leaving marks on the metal floor. As the door shut behind her, John turned to look at her again. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lixa." "Where are you from?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the corner of the room and sat down on the floor, hugging her knees. She looked cold, tired, scared. John handed her a towel and a blanket. She didn't take the bed. She just stayed in that corner. He stared at the collar. It looked high-tech. Advanced alien tech. Definitely military or slave-level tracking. A blinking red light slowly pulsed at the base of her neck. John sat down on the edge of the bed, watching her. "Lixa, who sent you?" She stayed quiet. He got up and walked toward her. "I won't hurt you. But you need to tell me what's going on." Suddenly the collar flashed and Lixa winced. I'm not allowed to say certain things. The collar will punish me." John stepped back. "This is insane. This is illegal." Lixa looked up at him with eyes full of sorrow. "Not in this system, not on this moon. No one cares here, no one listens." John clenched his fists. This wasn't just some misunderstanding. Someone had sent her here on purpose, like she was a piece of food, or worse. He turned on the wall, terminal, and tried to call the front desk. The screen blinked red. No signal. "What the hell?" Lixa stood up slowly. "They block the signal once I'm delivered." John's voice was hard now. "You're not staying here. I'm taking you back to whoever did this." She shook her head, stepping back. "No, please. If I go back, they'll erase me, like the others. I wasn't supposed to speak. I wasn't supposed to think." A flash of lightning lit up the window behind her, and for a moment John saw something. A shadow outside, watching, waiting. He walked over, pulled the curtain, and saw nothing. But his instincts screamed that they weren't alone anymore. He turned to Lixa. "Why room 42? Why me?" Her lips trembled. "Because they said a human might have mercy." John's heartbeat slowed. Something was very, very wrong. This wasn't about food. This wasn't about comfort. This was a setup, and he was now part of it. John couldn't sleep. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft breathing of the alien girl, curled up on the floor near the wall. The blanket he gave her barely covered her, but she hadn't moved an inch, like she was afraid to take up too much space. The motel room felt smaller now, too quiet, too wrong. His eyes kept drifting to the collar around her neck. That thing didn't just look dangerous. It felt like a trap wrapped in metal. He had seen slave collars before during the war, but nothing like this. The blinking red light, the way it buzzed softly in the air, and the way Lixa had flinched. When it sparked, John got up quietly, grabbed his data pad and knelt beside her. She was asleep, but not peacefully. She was trembling. One hand was gripping her ankle tightly like she was trying to hold herself still. He whispered, "Just checking, that's all," and scanned the collar. Error. Locked device. Military access only. Tracking beacon active. John's eyes narrowed. This wasn't some cheap black market tech. This was high-level alien military-grade control gear, and worse, someone could see them right now. Suddenly, the red light on the collar turned blue. It began to blink faster. Lixa's eyes flew open, wide with fear. "No, you touched it!" The collar beeped, then sparked. A shock of light surged through her body, and she cried out, twisting on the floor in pain. John jumped back, horrified. "Lixa," she gasped, breathing hard. Her skin shimmered with sweat. Her hands clutched the collar, but she didn't try to remove it. "Don't touch it again. It learns. It punishes more each time." John cursed under his breath. He had only wanted to help, but now he might have made things worse. He sat beside her, slow and careful. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." Lixa didn't speak for a long time. Then, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, she said, "They gave me to someone else last week. He tried to cut the collar. They found him dead the next day. His body was missing parts." John's blood went cold. "Who are they?" She shook her head quickly. "No, I can't speak their names. It will trigger the pain code." John's thoughts raced. He was in deeper than he realized. This wasn't about kindness anymore. This was about survival. He walked over to the mirror above the sink and looked at himself. A tired man. A useless man. That's how he had felt for months. But now someone needed him, and he couldn't walk away. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. The screen on the wall lit up. But it didn't show the motel menu. It showed a face. An alien, insectoid in shape, with hard eyes and a cruel smile. The voice that followed was calm and cold. "You have taken property that does not belong to you. Return it or be erased." John stared at the screen. "She's a person." The alien's smile widened. "No, she's a key, and you have 1 night before retrieval." The screen went black. The room fell silent again, except for the soft hum of the collar and the storm outside. John turned to Lixa. "What did they mean by key?" She stood up slowly, and for the first time she looked him in the eyes. "Because inside me is something they all want, and only a human can unlock it." John didn't understand yet, but he knew one thing for sure. They were not safe. Not anymore. John didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, holding a broken metal pipe from the bathroom like a weapon. It wasn't much, but it was something. The motel room was dark except for the blinking collar light around Lixa's neck. She sat, on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, staring out the window at the lightning storm. Neither of them spoke for a while. Then she said softly, "You're still here?" John turned. "Of course I am." Lixa tilted her head slightly. "Most run when they learn what I am." John frowned. "What are you, Lixa?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she stood and walked to the mirror. Her fingers touched the silver collar. A soft beep echoed as a small lens opened on its side. From that lens, a faint red beam projected strange glowing symbols into the air. It was not a message, it was a map. John leaned in, squinting. Is that a star system? Lixa nodded slowly. Not just any system. This is where the vault is hidden. A vault made by my people. It can rewrite DNA. It can change life itself. John blinked. You're saying you're carrying this information? No, she said. I am the key. The map is just part of me. The lock needs more. It needs a human. John's stomach turned. Why a human? She sat down again, this time closer to him. Because we designed it that way. John was quiet, confused. We? You mean your people? She nodded. Before we were conquered, we made one last hope. A vault no enemy could open. Only those with human DNA and a true heart. He laughed nervously. And they sent you to me? Lixa looked at him. I asked them to send me to a human, but they gave me to the black market instead. I was sold, traded, locked away. I hid the truth until now. John stood up and paced. His mind was racing. An alien girl carrying a living map. A vault hidden somewhere in the stars. A signal now tracing them. And him, a broke, jobless man. Now the only human who stood between her and those who wanted to tear her open for secrets. Suddenly the motel screen turned on again, but this time there was no face, just a countdown. 05, 58, 42. 6 hours. John turned to Lixa. They're coming, Lixa nodded. And they won't knock. He grabbed his datapad again and tried to access the caller interface. To his shock, the caller opened a small text window with words flashing. Emotion link recognized, partial access granted. His eyes widened. What the hell? A second later, numbers and alien symbols filled the screen. John couldn't understand most of it, but one thing stood out. Biolock activated. User match John Miller. Status, unstable pairing. He looked at Lixa. I think it's accepting me. Lixa smiled faintly. That means the bond has begun. John blinked. Bond? She touched his hand. You cared. That's all it needed to begin. Suddenly the screen glitched again. For a split second it showed live footage of a black drop pod descending through the clouds, heading for the motel. John's voice dropped low. We need to go, now. Lixa's glowing eyes flicked toward the door. There's a tunnel below, maintenance shaft, I can show you. John grabbed his jacket, datapad, and whatever tools he could carry. Then he looked at her again. I don't know what I'm doing, he said, but I won't let them take you. Lixa's reply was soft. That's what makes you different, John. That's why only a human can save me. Outside, the rain turned to thunder. Inside, the code in her eyes held the secret to a galaxy changing. Our truth, and the hunt had just begun. The power died at exactly 4:13 a.m. One moment, the motel lights were buzzing softly overhead. The next, they were gone. Darkness swallowed room 42 like a blanket dropped from the sky. John froze. No power. No sound. Not even the usual hum from the wall panel. He looked toward Lixa. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark, like twin stars floating in shadow. They're here, she whispered. I can feel the signal. John moved to the window and carefully pulled the curtain back just a little. Outside, everything looked calm, but wrong. Too calm. The air shimmered with static. That's when he noticed it. The motel sign, once blinking in bright red, was completely dark. Even the sky above looked strange, like a thin shimmer of purple had replaced the stars. They've shut down the area, John said under his breath. No power, no signal, like a net. Lixa nodded. They call it a silence field. It blocks escape, communication, and even some thoughts. John raised an eyebrow. Thoughts? She touched her collar. These collars don't just shock, they listen. Before John could respond, the floor vibrated slightly. Footsteps. Heavy. Not from humans. From something else. "We need to move," Lixa whispered. "Now." John grabbed his pack and tools and followed her to the bathroom. She knelt beside the wall and pressed her fingers into a small gap between two tiles. A faint click. A hidden panel shifted aside, revealing a narrow maintenance shaft going deep underground. "How do you know about this?" he asked. Lixa didn't answer. She just looked at him with sadness in her eyes. John didn't ask again. They climbed down the metal shaft as quietly as they could. The sound of footsteps above grew louder. He could hear sniffing, like some beast searching for a scent. As they reached the bottom, John turned and closed the hatch behind them. The tunnel below was tight and dark, but it stretched forward. "This runs under the motel?" he asked. "Yes," Lixa said. "This place wasn't just built for travelers. It was used to move things, people, weapons, secrets." John shook his head. "And I picked this place to stop and rest." They walked in silence through the narrow space. Pipes ran along the walls. Faint lights blinked once in a while like distant stars dying in the dark. Then, a strange clicking echoed behind them. John turned fast, shining a small light from his datapad. For a moment, nothing. Then something moved. Fast. A blur of silver, like something running on walls and ceiling at the same time. "Run!" Lixa cried. John didn't argue. They sprinted through the tunnel, feet slapping against the cold floor. Behind them, the creature chased, its claws tapping, clicking, growing louder. At last, they reached a fork. 2 doors. One marked generator room, the other, no label at all. "Which way?" John shouted. Lixa looked back. "Left. They can't follow into heat zones." They slammed into the generator room just in time. John locked the door and backed away as something slammed into it from the other side, hard enough to crack the metal. "What is that thing?" he gasped. Lixa sat down, out of breath. Hunter. Not alive, not dead. A machine built from flesh, it only stops when the target dies." John cursed under his breath. "So now what?" She looked at the control panel. "If we restore power, I can send a burst signal through my collar. Just once. It might bring help." John raised an eyebrow. "And if they trace it?" Lixa met his eyes. "Then we die faster, or we get rescued. You choose." John looked at the panel, then back at her. "Let's light the place up." His fingers flew over the controls. The generator rumbled. Lights above flickered. Systems came alive. But so did the hunter. The door behind them creaked. The beast outside screamed. And the countdown had just hit 2 hours. The generator hummed like a sleeping beast. John and Lixa stood in the dim orange glow, breathing hard, their clothes damp from sweat and fear. Behind them, the dented door groaned with every slam from the creature on the other side. The steel was starting to bend inward. "This door won't hold long," John said. Lixa didn't argue. Her eyes locked onto a metal panel in the corner marked, "Emergency Tunnel. Authorized personnel only." She ran to it, placed her palm on the scanner, and to John's surprise, it turned green. "Wait, how did you do that?" he asked. Lixa didn't look back. "Because I'm not just some random alien girl." With a hiss, the panel slid open, revealing a narrow chute that angled downward deep into the earth. John followed her without another word. As they descended, silence wrapped around them again, except this silence felt alive, like they were entering something ancient. The tunnel opened into a cavern made of smooth black stone, humming faintly. Strange symbols lined the walls, glowing soft blue. John looked around in awe. "This isn't part of the motel, is it?" Lixa shook her head. "This is older than the motel, older than this planet's first colony." She placed her hand on a nearby wall. The symbols shifted, responding to her touch. A platform rose from the ground. In its center, a pedestal, Upon it sat a glass orb pulsing with blue light. "What is that?" John whispered. Lixa walked to it slowly. "The first fragment. It holds the location of the DNA vault." John stared at her. "You said you were a key. Is that what they're after?" Lixa nodded. "Yes, but not just this." She turned and faced him. Her expression was soft now, sad. "There were once 12 of us, 12 carriers, 12 maps hidden inside living bodies." John's throat tightened. "And now?" "Now I'm the last one." The weight of her words hit like a falling star. John stepped forward. "Why not just hide the orb? Destroy it?" Lixa lowered her head. "Because it's not about the vault anymore. It's about me. They believe I remember the override code. They want to tear it from my mind piece by piece." John clenched his jaw. "And they would have done that if I had turned you away." Lixa looked up, her eyes shimmering. "But you didn't." Before John could answer, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. From above, they heard metal tearing. The hunter had entered the generator room. John spun to face the tunnel. "We're out of time." Lixa grabbed the orb and pressed it to her chest. It dissolved into her skin like mist. She winced but stayed standing. John moved to help her, but she raised a hand. "I'm fine. It's where it belongs." Suddenly, John's datapad buzzed. A new message. Bond level increased. User match, stable. Defense protocols ready. Before he could ask what it meant, Lixa gasped. The collar around her neck turned white. Its red light gone. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "You stabilized the bond." John blinked. "I did what now?" "You activated my defense link. That means I can protect you now too." Before he could ask more, a sound echoed through the tunnel. Drip, drip, step. The hunter had found them. John grabbed a metal rod from the ground. "I'll hold it off. You run." But Lixa stepped in front of him. "No," she said calmly. "Let me show you why I was built." She lifted her hand. From her palm, light burst like a flare, bright and blue. The wall behind them shifted, opening. A hidden exit. "That way," she said. "You go. I'll follow once I stop it." John stared at her. "You sure?" She nodded. "This is the first time I'm not afraid. Because I'm not alone." And then she turned. The tunnel behind them filled with screeching, and John ran, carrying the truth, the bond, and maybe, just maybe, the future of 2 species. The emergency tunnel spat John out into a canyon under the rising twin moons. The rain had stopped, but the air smelled like burnt wires and metal. The sky was no longer dark. It was red, pulsing like a warning. He turned back, heart pounding. Lixa. But she wasn't behind him yet. From deep inside the tunnel, the earth rumbled. John gripped the metal rod tighter, ready to charge back in. And then, boom. A blast of white light exploded from the tunnel entrance. Dust flew, rocks cracked, and from the center of the glow a shadow crawled out, not Lixa. It stood over 7 feet tall, humanoid in shape, but twisted. Its skin a mesh of black armor and pulsing green veins. Its face was a mask, smooth with no eyes or mouth, just a glowing red symbol in the center of its head. The hunter. John stepped back, breath caught in his throat. It moved fast, too fast for its size, until it stood just a few feet from him. Then it spoke, not out loud, but in his head. "You have bonded with the carrier. You are unfit, unclean. The vault will not open to your kind." John tightened his grip. "That's your mistake." The hunter tilted its head like a machine scanning a broken code. "You are fragile, you bleed, you love. These are errors. I am here to correct them." Suddenly a second voice rang out, real and loud. "He is not your error. He is my choice." Lixa emerged from the tunnel, her body glowing faintly. The collar on her neck had turned silver white. Her dress shimmered like it was made of light. Her eyes, once soft, now burned with energy. The hunter turned to her. "Carrier, You cannot fight. You were designed to run. Lixa stepped forward. I've run long enough. She raised both hands. A crackle of light arced from her fingers. John shielded his eyes as a blast of pure force slammed into the hunter, sending it skidding backward into the dirt. That was new, John muttered. Lixa looked at him and smiled. Bond strength unlocked combat mode. The hunter stood again. Its chest opened, revealing a dark sphere inside. A pulse cannon began to charge. John ran to Lixa. That thing's gonna fire, but Lixa didn't move. Her expression was calm, determined. Trust me. The cannon fired. John grabbed her to protect her body, but instead of an impact, a wall of blue light formed in front of them. The blast hit it and scattered like water on steel. Lixa's glow dimmed. She dropped to one knee. That took a lot. John knelt beside her. You saved us. But the hunter wasn't done. It sprinted toward them, claws out, its body splitting apart to show multiple weapons inside. John stood up, ready to fight. Then, Lixa touched his back. Remember the orb I absorbed? He nodded. Now it's inside. You two. The bond works both ways. John felt something rise in his chest. A heat. A fire. Suddenly, his vision turned blue, just like hers. His arms pulsed with strange energy lines. His body felt light. Stronger. He turned to the charging hunter. Let's finish this. As the creature lunged, John moved like never before. One swing of his arm, powered by the vault's light, slammed into the hunter and sent it flying into the rock wall. The machine beast shattered into sparks and broken. Metal. Smoke hissed from its body. It didn't rise again. Silence returned to the canyon. John looked at his hands, still glowing. What the hell just happened? Lixa stood weakly. You became more. He turned to her. Is it over? She shook her head. That was just one of them. He frowned. How many more? She looked up at the stars. Thousands. John took a deep breath. Then we'd better start running again. Lixa smiled weakly. No. Now we start fighting. And side by side, they disappeared into the alien night. Two lights bound by trust, running toward a future that had just begun. The stars were still above them, but everything had changed. John and Lixa walked through the red-tinted desert, the remains of the motel long behind them. The wind blew softly now, no longer carrying the hum of hunter drones or the weight of fear, just quiet, just peace. But only for now. They had survived the night. John stopped and looked over the edge of a high cliff. Below was a dark valley filled with strange trees glowing blue. A ship waited there, old, rusty, but intact. Something he had hidden long ago, thinking he'd never need it again. That's yours? Lixa asked, her voice softer now. He nodded. Built it during the war, smuggled parts, everyone laughed at me for keeping it. Lixa smiled. They're probably not laughing now. John grinned and then glanced at her. Her collar, once blinking red like a death sentence, was now fully silver, shining with soft pulses. Her skin, her eyes, even the air around her, felt different, like she wasn't just a girl anymore. She was becoming something more, and maybe... So was he. They reached the ship and entered the hold. It smelled like dust and old fuel, but the lights flickered on when he touched the console. Lixa sat on a crate watching him work. So, what happens now? She asked. John looked up. Now? We find the other pieces of the vault, we destroy what's hunting you. And maybe, just maybe, we change how the galaxy sees humans. Lixa tilted her head. You think one man and one broken girl can do that? He walked over to her and sat beside her. You're not broken. You were just waiting for someone to see you. She didn't speak. She only leaned her head against his shoulder. 2 days later, a remote station on a mining moon. The human ship landed quietly, unnoticed among traders and scavengers. John and Lixa stepped out. Everyone stared. Not because of John, but because of her. No one had ever seen an alien girl walking freely with a human. No chains, no control device, no fear. Some whispered. Others backed away. John walked proudly beside her. He didn't care about the stairs. She had earned her place. They sat down at a tiny food stall. The old server droid rolled over. "Order," John smiled. 2 breakfasts, eggs, toast, synth bacon. The droid rolled away. Lixa looked confused. "What's breakfast?" he laughed. "You'll see." When the plates arrived, she picked up a fork awkwardly and poked at the food. Then she tasted it. Her eyes went wide. "This is incredible." John chuckled. "Told you. Best meal in the galaxy." Lixa ate slowly, like every bite mattered. Then, she looked up. "You know, the first time I heard your voice, I thought you were going to reject me. Like the others." John paused. "And if I had?" She smiled faintly. "Then I would have died in that motel." He said nothing for a while. Then softly, "I didn't save you, Lixa. You saved me too." She blinked, surprised. "I did?" He nodded. "I was drifting, alone, no purpose. Then you showed up with a collar and a scared look, and suddenly, I mattered again." Lixa reached across the table and took his hand. "Then let's keep mattering, together." A moment passed between them. Quiet but powerful, and far above them the stars watched in silence. Back on the motel's ruins, the hunter's broken body stirred. Its core blinked once, red again. Carrier signal lost. Recalibrating. From the shadows, more shapes emerged, tall, armored, silent. The next wave had arrived, but far away, in the stars above. 2 lights now burned brighter than ever before. One man ordered breakfast. What he got instead changed the fate of the galaxy.